Hey everyone, this is Coach Phoenix.
And I'm Coach Gina.
And this is Toast with the Coaches. Cheers.
Cheers. Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Perspective, the show where we drink and talk about life, the universe, and all that other jazz.
And again, I'm Coach Phoenix, founder and CEO of Role Model Life Coaching. At Role Model Life Coaching, we partner with our clients to help them navigate down the road of life towards their model self.
I'm Gina Erickson. I am a certified life coach and founder of Clear Focus Coaching. I specialize in boundaries coaching and women empowerment. For more information, check out my link down below.
I definitely recommend her. So at this time, I would like to raise a toast. I would like to raise a toast for a man who exemplified the meaning seconds. An author, McNair scholar, nonprofit co-founder, University of Michigan's grad assistant, a mentor, a leader of the community, Detroit's own Mario Bueno. Cheers.
Cheers. Welcome to the show, Mario.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm humbled.
Yeah. Same here. We know that you're a busy man with lots of things on your plate, so we're really thankful that you were able to carve out some time. See the joke I made there? It's Thanksgiving. Carve out some time to hang with us tonight.
Absolutely. Yo, Mario, man, welcome. Thank you for hanging up with us tonight, man. It's definitely our pleasure. To our audience, happy Thanksgiving. So Mario, let's not make the audience wait. Let's jump right into it. So at the age of 16 years old, you was charged and convicted of a murder in which led you to becoming a juvenile lifer, correct? Unfortunately,
yes. In the Michigan Department of Corrections, if you're given anything over 20 years, you're classified as a lifer. So I was sentenced 22 to 40 years, unfortunately.
At the age of 16.
By the time I was sentenced, I was 17. I spent 387 days in solitary confinement as I challenged that crime that led to a conviction. You know, I always say that if I had the character and the wherewithal to accept responsibility for my actions at that time, I wouldn't have committed those actions to begin with. Now, unfortunately, at 16, I thought it was okay to rob and harm drug dealers.
So that was kind of your thing at that age. You was a stick-up kid?
It was progressive in nature, but yeah, by the time I reached 15, 16, unfortunately, yeah, I became a stick-up kid, unfortunately. That's an older term too. I think it might have came back, but it was youngsters who kind of like that New Jack City Menace Society type culture, perspective and paradigms on life where you would rob, if you were in the game, you were fair game. That was the rules in which we engaged. And that's the rules in which I was conditioned to in the streets at that time, doing business with men that, for the most part are 8 to 10 years my elder.
So what I was going to ask you was, you said that was your life at that time. Can you briefly describe for Gina and I and our audience, what was Detroit like growing up?
I was born and raised in Pontiac.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm from the Yak, actually, from Pontiac, which is, about 25 minutes from Detroit. And I was born in Pontiac, lived in Miami for quite some time, lived in Mexico, but I got locked up early at 16.
At what age did you move to Pontiac?
Well, I was born and raised in Pontiac, moved to Miami around 9, came back to Pontiac. Well, actually moved to Mexico at first, around 2 to 3. Came back around 4, moved to Miami around 9, came back around 11, 12, and then got locked up at 16. So, but, so at that time it was Thrive. It was 95. I got locked up. My mom came from Cuba when she was 17. My grandfather migrated to both of my grandfathers. One came from Ecuador, one came from Cuba. They went to Pontiac because of the big three. They were providing jobs to people across, obviously, the globe. So that being said, Detroit now ties in because since I've been home, it'll be 7 years, January 22nd. Detroit, in my perspective in the work that I do, and the work that I was doing before I was released, that's ground zero, for the lack of a better term, for the work that we do. Challenging high-risk populations, meeting them where they at, like you said, and trying to guide them towards where they're designed to be.
Got you. So growing up in Pontiac, you 14 years old.
Yeah, 14. So it was so by 14, I had been fighting Isharu for a couple of years. Families in turmoil, mom struggling, dad stopped talking to me around 13. He had his own issues. So
your parents were separated and you were living with your mother in Pontiac?
Yeah. My parents were separated when I was about 3 to 4 years old. Ugly divorce. My mom's moved me to Miami at 9. And that was during the times where, mother got the rights most of the time and she can move you anywhere. Right. Mm-hmm. So I moved to Miami, really strained the relationship with my father, came back, family experienced a lot of struggles, as a parent now, obviously you dare not judge, but my mother had her struggles and she was dealing with the best way she could. And it created a space in which those outside entities, it's an impressionable age, 13, 14. At 13, my older sister, who's 16, pretty young girl, dating, guys in Pontiac that are doing things and getting money illegally. And that obviously attracted me towards that lifestyle. And so therefore came those who I began to model. Right. And so by 13, I started selling drugs. By 15, I started robbing drug dealers. And so I rationalized my criminal mindedness, my criminal acts. And so that was in Pontiac. It was a good time during that time. They moved me out to West Bloomfield area, had me go to high school in West Bloomfield for a couple of years, trying to save me, I think. But what that did was honestly, that just expanded my marketplace, because I'm getting drugs cheap from Pontiac, and I'm selling it at 3 times the cost to people in Bloomfield Hills and West Bloomfield.
So Pontiac is like the city and West Bloomfield is like the suburb.
Pontiac is like a small little Detroit, and then West Bloomfield Hills, it's Oakland County area, and that was at one time the richest county in the nation. So with that being said, Oakland County is right between is what separates kind of like Detroit and Pontiac. So, but the Pontiac was an inner city before the foundries and the factories all closed down. But it was an inner city.
What I heard that you said you was based in Pontiac. Your parents had you living in Pontiac, but to try to change your trajectory, they sent you to the suburbs to, hey, better education over here, one of the richest counties in America. He's going to do well. But in your head, you're 13, 14, 15, right? At this time, you're 15?
At that time, they moved me there when I was about 13, going on 14. I was 14.
Just entering high school.
Yeah. So for ninth grade, they figured, I went to Pontiac schools until I was, going into 9th grade. And they figured, you know what? I got a scholarship to go to academics. I got good academics.
Oh, so you was always smart.
You know what? They used to, when I used to go visit my father every other weekend, he would go to Kroger's and buy a bunch of food, but he'd always buy a math and a reading book, workbook every other weekend. Like he literally made me do a reading and math book every other weekend. And so by 7th grade, I was in the hallway in a math book ahead of the class.
Yeah.
And so it's like, when I got into solitary confinement, I was only just completed 11th grade, but he would send me college textbooks through my Uncle Johnny, who was the city councilman. He was able to come and smuggle me books, and I would sit there and read. So we're talking about a father who told me, said, I don't believe in what you did, son, so I'm not going to pay for your turn, but I'll pay for your education.
So you earlier you mentioned that you and your father's relationship was estranged, but
it was very strained. And then right before I got locked up, like 6 months, like my dad found a big duffel bag full of dope inside his house in my bedroom, like 4 months before I got locked up. So like we didn't talk from 13 till 16, but then we started talking like 6 months, 4 to 6 months before I got locked up. We started getting real close again. He got his second divorce. So the lady who really put a wedge between us, he left her and we just became jam again. But by then, you know, I was involved and engaged in activities that he had no idea. You know, he didn't want to believe it when he was given warnings from people like saying, your son's involved in things he shouldn't be involved in.
So let's talk about those things that you was involved in. So let's go back to the day that your alleged crime happened. Can you walk us through that?
You know, it's man, that's you know, I've only been called to account for that day. This is the second time. And the first time was during a parole hearing.
Wow.
So you're talking about someone who was interrogated 30-some times. I had a hung jury. I had an alibi defense. I said I wasn't there, right? And so the evidence they had against me was my cousin who told on me. He made several statements against me, but he pled the fifth. But his buddy, who facilitated the weapon, he was older. He's 21. My cousin was 18. I was 16. And so he made obviously he told on it. And they offered me a deal to tell against both of them after my hung jury.
Right. Before you go into that, can you tell us exactly what you was accused of?
So I'm accused. So I'm convicted of second-degree murder. Right, that's the murder of a 26-year-old man during a drug deal. I was the armed robbery and the felony murder was dismissed and dropped, but open murders remain. Open murder is first-degree murder, second-degree murder. I went to trial for that, and they gave me a hung jury. 6 hours guilty, 6 hours wasn't the first trial. The second trial, they retried me for open murder, and they convicted me of second-degree murder.
Mm.
So on that day, we were arranged to meet on that day. I remember he was quoting prices that was astronomical. He didn't really, you know, I had been doing business with him for like a few months. I never knew his full name. I never knew his age. I never knew how big he was. I never knew anything about him. We were connected. I jump in his car. I buy what I want. I jump out. Boom, we're done. I remember I asked him a quarter on a couple of pounds, and they were astronomical. So in my mind, I said, all right, I'm just going to take it from him. And so not knowing, he was actually trying to facilitate a robbery as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I found this all out later on. So we meet up. I was supposed to bring my cousin along. I'm out in Pontiac, and he wants to meet up quick. So I let my cousin know, you know, basically I had to go by myself. I went by myself, and I checked out the bag. I pulled my 45 caliber out, and he was a very tall guy. I was standing outside the car, and he reached back to grab it, you know, and I pulled the trigger one time, and the bullet went through his hand, which I didn't know at the time. I didn't know he was hit. So the bullet, this is the first actual count that I'm actually giving, really. So this is, you know, it went through his hand and it punctured his lung, unfortunately. And so he jumped out the vehicle and he ran. Now he had tinted windows, so I thought he was getting out the vehicle with the pistol. So I kind of squatted behind the vehicle. My gun was jammed, and I was trying to unjam it. And so I was going to use that as a weapon, but I seen him running. Thinking that he was going to come back, you know, I made sure he wouldn't act like my gun wasn't jammed, yelling at him. He ran away. And so I grabbed the keys to his car, not knowing he was hit, mind you. Mm-hmm. This whole time, throw the keys in the bushes so he doesn't chase me. And I take off. And so I go back to my cousin's homeboy and I explain. Now, mind you, if this isn't evidence enough, it tells you I didn't know he was hit. I gave the murder weapon back to the guy, my cousin's homeboy, and said, you almost got me killed. I said, this gun jam. And so he gives me a different.
It wasn't normal for you to go to these meetups with a weapon. That was the first time you had gone with a weapon?
With a pistol like that. Yeah. Yeah, usually. Okay,
what were the conditions that caused you to take a weapon that day?
Obviously his size and the intent to take his stuff at all costs, and the understanding that he usually carries a weapon too. You know.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this wasn't somebody that you normally met up with. This was somebody that you were connected
No,
to.
we just did deals together.
Oh,
Drug
okay.
deals. It was this, you know, it was an era of ego and culture of honor that I really, you know, like dealing with, you know, young men with daddy issues, delusions of grandeur. I think hypnotized by the influences of. I'm being honest with you, and I'm not blaming it on the media or movies or culture or rap. But I'll be honest with you, today I do not just ride in my car listening to any music. I really don't listen to music. I actually usually decide to use that time to feed myself through positive kind of music with YouTube. However, at that time, at that era, all I did was digest, absorb, and feed off of the likes of MC Ren. Come on, man. Like, you for real? Like MC Ren, like every kind of hardcore rap that you can think of, whether it's Wu-Tang, any kind of Menace to Society, New Jack City, Blood In, Blood Out, American Me.
Yeah.
So, but my point is, like, when you're dealing with a group of a population that's impressionable, such as that, and you have a space to be able to influence their mindsets. I mean, as a person thinking, so they are. So when I'm articulating to you and trying to explain to you what happened that day, it's hard for me to do that at 42 years old.
Yeah.
Because it don't make sense to me.
Yeah, because you're saying it from a 42-year-old man's perspective. And this is what I push individuals to understand, because like you, I used to be a wild juvenile, and I never, God bless, that I never was in a situation where I was landed in prison. But I did get arrested several times and was in county and things in that nature.
Rikers Island is like a prison.
On a very small scale, but not prison. And God bless. But what I try to make individuals understand is that there is no freaking way that a teenager, same capacity and understanding life and consequences that have. So you at 16, there's no way that you understood exactly what you was doing
at all.
Consequences behind that. And I definitely understand that. So moving past that, Mario.
Yeah.
Tell us, Gina and I and the audience, describe what that situation was like after you got arrested.
So I left, gave my man, met him up, drove home, not knowing this whole time Samuel was shot. Go pick up my girl, go out. I'm going to South Beach the next day. I already had this trip planned for like a few months. And so I walk in to say goodnight to my mother, and she says, you see why I don't want you hanging out in Pontiac? And I look at the TV screen. That's how I found out I did what I did.
Oh, wow.
So I walk back to my bed and I sit down. I'm like, damn. And it like, that's how I found out. So, 3 days in Miami.
Hold on, wait, you just jumped the whole part. So what made you go to Miami after, so you found out?
I already had that trip planned. No, I already had that trip planned several months.
You were just going.
Yeah.
So Samuel, the man who was shot, he ran. Did someone find him? Did he try to get to the hospital? Like, do you know the conditions?
No. So he ran towards the tennis courts, because this was at a school during the summertime, and people testified that they heard someone screaming for help, but they didn't really couldn't tell. They thought they were trying to be, that they were, this isn't a bad area, so they thought maybe it was a setup, so they did pay attention. So when he ran back to the car, and this is where really, I hate even thinking about it, but if he would have had his keys in the car, he probably maybe would have got help. I never knew he was hit. He literally reached back, because I pulled the gun. As soon as I had, literally all in one whop. But he was 6'6", 6'7", which I didn't know all that. And so when he was sitting in his driver's seat, he literally just reached back and almost grabbed it. And so literally it went through his hand and punctured his lung. And so It was all just so quick. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm be honest with you, as a stupid 16-year-old angry youth that thinks you're invincible to the world, you think that you literally gonna say freeze and don't move, and it's gonna go down exactly the way you planned it.
Like the movies or the TV.
Just like the movies. Just
or
like
the song, yeah.
Just like Minnesota when he pulls up at the drive-thru, you supposed to stay put and let me take your rims. You know what I'm saying? Like you are programmed to believe this fantasy land that is literally gonna play out.
But Mary, you know what it is? It's not that you program. You don't know anything else. You haven't experienced that. So only thing you have to like lean on is
you're right. It's fantasy.
In the movies, it happened like this. What
you know, literally like right
reality.
now. We'll get into what I'm doing now, but I tell these youngsters, I say, you know, it don't really happen this way, right? Like it's like chess. Like when I move, then you can move.
Yeah.
Right, and then it's my move. Shit don't happen where it's just you move and no one else move.
Absolutely. So let's go back to that. So you came back from Miami. Then what happened?
I go to Miami on the third day. I'm at the beach. Look, I'm at the beach. So I was visiting there, and I come back from the beach, and I go inside my aunt's house, and she tells me in Spanish. She says, "Call that number." And I look at it. She says, "Your mom said call this number. It's an attorney. There's trouble back in Michigan." So I called the number. I said, "Hello." He's like, yeah. I said, "Yeah." They said call for Mr. Sabota. And I didn't know who this guy was at the time. And so he gets on the phone. He's like, "Hey, Mario, I know you don't know who I am, but your mother just hired me and they're charging you with felony murder." And I was like, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about, Click." So I hung the phone up, right?
Prank call.
Yeah, so I hung the phone up and I called my cousin. I beat my cousin. We had pages back then. So I beep him, he calls me back. I said, "What's going on, man?" He says, "Don't come back." I said, "Don't come back." I said, "What you mean by that?" He's like, "Don't come back. They think you did it." I said, Click, hung up on that phone too, right? I was like, click. So I talked to my mom and she says, "You need to come back tomorrow." So I came, turned myself in. And I still remember like it was yesterday. I'm coming up in the airport. And literally, she's standing there at the top of the escalator. And when I get to the top, all she says is, "Do you know what you did?" You know, I remember like it was yesterday. "Do you know what you did?" And she was crying. And we just walked. She walked me to the attorney's office. I didn't say a word. They drove me to the Pontiac police station at the time. They had a police department. And I still remember they walked me back there. They start fingerprinting me. And my mom went to take my necklace off, and she whispered in my ear. She says, "I'll never leave you or forsake you." And literally, I had a beaded necklace I had got from Bermuda with a silver cross, and all the beads just broke off as she said that, and the cross went falling, ding, ding, all in one way. It was like a real movie, no doubt, you know. And hence commenced, you know, this whole process, you know. I remember I walked into that holding cell. My attorney was like, "Don't talk to him, no matter what." I go sit down, and this homicide detective walks in. He says, "Mario, we know you, you know, you were there, but we don't think you did it. We think someone was with you." So he asked about the guy who ended up testifying against me. I didn't say anything, but then he asked about my cousin, and it's instinctually. Well, my dumb ass instinctually said, Antonio doesn't have anything to do with it. He wasn't there. Well, that placed me at the scene, right? So therefore, I could never take the stand, which is good anyways. My graduation ring in my accounting ring is Romans 8:28. All things happen for the good for those who love God and are called to His purpose. So it's good that it played out that way. But once again, like instinctually, my first instinct would say he wasn't even there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Protect your family.
When instinctually, immediately, it wasn't the same for him. And yet, that saved my life, and saved many more lives, and ironically so, fast forward 25 years later, like since I've been home it'll be 7 years January, I've had a dark space where he talked me out of doing exactly what I did at 16 out here as a grown man when I couldn't get a job even at Costco.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? Like what he did, quote unquote, to me, like people get caught up in what so-and-so did to me and what so-and-so, it's ego. You know, you get caught up in the entire universe is in perfect working order except what happened to me. You know, you feel what I'm saying?
Can you add a little bit of clarity around what you say that what he did to you? What was it that he did to you?
Well, he made 3 statements against me, my cousin. The first one was as soon as they picked him up, he made a statement in the car. Mm-hmm. And then he protected his buddy too. That was more insult to injury. You know, for the first 7 years of my incarceration.
So he protected the 21-year-old. You said it was a 20-year-old, 18-year-old, and you was 16. He protected the 20-year-old except for protecting his little cousin.
Yeah. And that's exactly how I took it, the way you're saying it. The first so both the 20-year-old, 21-year-old, and your 18-year-old cousin, they both quote unquote snitched on you, took the stand on you. Yeah, my cousin pled the 5th, and then in the second trial they allowed the 21-year-old to say, basically hearsay. They said, "Well, Antonio called me and asked if I could do this for his cousin Mario," and I couldn't cross-examine that, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what led to the conviction of me. He pled the 5th, my cousin did. My grandfather hired this one Jewish attorney at first that was making a deal for my cousin, right? My grandfather didn't know English. I just say Jewish attorney because my grandfather's Cuban, didn't know English, right? Mm-hmm. And so then he fired him and hired this Cuban attorney. I still remember Jose Fanega. He was a beast. And he told him, he said, "I don't care what happens, but don't let him testify against his cousin." And so he pled the 5th, but they squoze him. They charged him with conspiracy. He got it all beat.
How much time he got sentenced with?
No one got time except me.
What?
Well, yeah, because that was the conflict my parents had when they offered me a deal after my hung jury. My mom and dad came to visit me and said, "You will take that deal." I could have got out at 21. I could have got out at 21 if I would have told on either one of them. And but so the problem,
why didn't you?
Well, the problem was I'm the one that did it. You know what I'm saying? That's number one. But number two, I didn't want to be locked up anyway. I told my mom, I said, I don't want to be. She was like, "You're gonna let them go free?" I said, "I don't care if we're both locked up. That doesn't make me happy." Yeah. I said, "We're gonna go for it." You know what I'm saying? I was a risk taker, obviously, right? But
were you tried as a juvenile or as an adult?
I was a juvenile. At the time, it was called the automatic waiver law. And so they automatically waived me and charged me as an adult. But then after the conviction, they have to go through a hearing phase, a sentencing phase. And so they had to treat me as a juvenile the entire time, hence solitary confinement at the age of 16. But yeah, they offered me a deal. And like I said, at the end of the day, on day 4, I literally broke down, got on my knees in solitary. And I remember that little boy, when I was like 10, 11, 12, I used to pray to God all the time to save my mom. You know? I remember that little boy when I was in solitary, and I told God, I said, "If you would have saved my mom back then, this wouldn't have happened." Mm-hmm. I told him that. I said, "I challenge you." I was on my knees. I said, "I challenge you. If you save me, I'll spend the rest of my life helping men like you." And so I climbed up on the mat. There's no windows in the solitary. I climbed up on the mat, passed out, and woke up to a loud. And I jumped and I looked, and the sheriff was walking away. And I looked, and on the floor was a Bible. And so I got on my knees and I said, I take this as confirmation of our covenant. And I read that Bible 3 times when I was in solitary, for 387 days. And every Saturday, this deacon will come in and train me in the story of Job, the book of Job, about suffering, And so when I was offered the deal, what it has to do with this, when I was offered the deal, I've always inherently known that I'd be okay. I don't know what it is. Like Gina and Phoenix, I give you my word. Like, I was so immature. I should have been one of them stupid little kids coloring at the damn court table while they, what I'm saying? Not meaning I was innocent, naive, but I was so like, I was naive in terms of my faith. Like, I literally believed I was fine. It didn't matter what happened. And then when I was found guilty, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand. And I understand because I'm gonna be honest with you. So my mom's from Cuba, right? She's from Oriente, Baracoa. That's the easternmost port. That's where the slave ports came from, Nigeria, right? So it's the tribe of Ifa, like the Yoruba tribe. So my mom took me to see this lady she took me a couple times. Like you remember that movie, Major League, Phoenix?
Hell yeah.
Joe Boo. My mom's like that dude, Joe Boo. Got a whole little altar and everything, right? So she took me. I was a badass little kid, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I was angry. So she took me to see this Cuban lady in Southwest Detroit. And this was like 6 months before I took Samuel's life. And she took me there. And I'm sitting, she would make me go places at 16 because, my mom started cleaning herself up heavy at 16. I had 2 little baby sisters. She started cleaning, but it was too late for me. I was like, man, so the Cuban lady that my mom took me to, man, took me in the basement, and there were some tarot cards there, and there was a cross and a candle. My mom would make me go these places and say, you ain't gonna go out this weekend if you don't come with me. So I'm like, damn, man, so she started shuffling these cards and shit, and I used to run poker tables. My mom, like, I would run gambling tables at 16.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, my mom would leave for like 10 hours. I'd run a whole gambling party downstairs, cutting every table. So I said, so I made a joke. Well, what's up? We gonna gamble? She's like, she didn't have her teeth in her mouth. Cuban lady. I take this very serious. I'm like, all right. So I cut the cards, and so boom, she gets all panicked, and she starts asking me, where do I get my drugs from? I'm like, I don't get drugs from anyone. What are you talking about? She does it again. So then she says, look, she says, you trying to go to Miami right now, huh? And I had got caught up with some police stuff, so my mom canceled my trip. And I was like, yeah. I was like, my mom probably told her that stuff. She was like, I see a 26-year-old black man, real big, and you're gonna kill him over drugs and money.
She said that?
I said, bro.
6 months before you got locked, before you popped him.
She told me this 3-4 months before I met her. That's why I thought she was crazy. I was buying quantity weight from this white dude. I was 16, he was 18, 19. So she told me this insight, and she told me all this stuff. And at the time, I'm getting my stuff from this white guy, who then ends up a few months later finding out that his girlfriend's coming to see me before she goes see him. You feel me? And so I fall out. So 6 months later, 4 or 5, 6 months later, after I met this lady, I completely forgot about her. And the reason why I told you I never knew his age or how big he was, that's why I told you that, Gina.
Yeah.
Because when I'm sitting there in my cell, I look at the medical examiner report. I said, oh, shit. He was 6'6", 26 years old.
It's all connected.
I said, and so my mom called, and she goes, I told him.
That's crazy.
But Phoenix, at the time, she said what I was gonna do, and she said what was gonna happen to me. She said I was gonna spend a lot of all the time that they said I was going to in prison. But at the time before I met this man, she said God was gonna use me for something big. I give you my word. She said that God is just the source translator. It's the source, right? The source was gonna use me for something big. That's what she told me then. And after I got locked up, she told me people, like my mom was in Miami one time coming back in 2007. I was teaching guys at Riverside Correctional Facility, conflict resolution. And I kept getting kicked out of every prison I went to because I would still, I was angry. I thought like I had to change of heart. How could you send me to prison for 20 years?
Yeah. Hold on. So that's exactly what I want to touch on.
Go ahead.
You angry, you get sentenced.
So I'm sitting here, read the Bible 3 times, you know what I'm saying? Thinking like, woo, I'm ready to go out and preach and help all these average students. And God says, sit your dumb ass down, boy. You feel me? Like you gotta first and foremost be held accountable, and you gotta humble yourself. But no, you can only lead someone from a place that you yourself have traveled. Right? Absolutely. So get to traveling, get to humbling yourself and get to traveling. So I get to 22 to 40. I become very angry. I spent 3 years as solitary before 22. I get kicked out of 9 prisons out of 16 of them. They take me from Oakland County Jail, right? County. And they take me to Riverside Correctional Facility at the time now this is 1996, right? I got locked up in 95, 96. I'm going to Riverside Correctional Facility. And
that's intake? Is that intake?
Yes, quarantine.
Got you.
For the youth at the time. For the youth. So we're talking about 20 and under, go to this quarantine place where so we walk in and it's an old mental institution. And as soon as we go in the cage, I notice there's a lot of traffic with officers and stuff. And as soon as we get in the cage, they say, take your clothes off. And we're wide open, right? I'm like, all right. So I take my clothes. They was like, no, underwear, everything. I'm like, all right. So then we stand there for about 30 minutes. An hour goes by. So then I say, excuse me, are we going to get any clothes? They say, shut the fuck up. We'll talk to you when you speak when you're spoken to. You hear me? I don't say nothing to him. He walks away. Another van pulls up, some more youths from other counties. For the next 4 or 5 hours, now I look up, there's like 75 of us in this cage.
Are you still naked?
All of us butt naked. And so
for hours.
For hours. So I sit there and I let all of them know, there's about 70-something of us. I said, they trying to break us, yo. I said, don't say none. I said, they trying to break us, just don't say nothing. And so that's how it ensued. They finally gave us clothes. They took us upstairs and they told us we had 3 minutes to eat. Now, mind you, this is prison food, so there's a lot more food than county food. You know, and a lot of us are, suffering from malnutrition and whatnot. And so they make us stuff our face real quick. Everything's yelling at it. And this isn't a boot camp. This is like general population for youth that they think this is the way to break us in.
But what's the point of breaking somebody? I mean, like, I'm just hearing this, and you don't treat dogs like that. Like, a humane person does not, an empathetic person, a regular, normal human being does not treat any other living creature like that.
Yeah. So
what is the point?
So unfortunately, in this place, they didn't have bathrooms in the cells because it was a mental facility that had common areas with showers and bathrooms. But unfortunately, they kept us locked up 24 hours a day and would let us out to use the restroom at certain times if they had time. So now you have guys beating on their doors all day, defecating in their T-shirts and throwing out the windows. And we had the little urine jugs, and I'm humbled and blessed to say this. I was blessed. So walking into the place, the lady who ran the intake with a couple of porters, the next day, the porter came to me and says, my boss seen how you carried yourself. And she wants to hire you. I'm about to leave. And she only hires people with a lot of time because it's harder to find bed space for me. So I had walking into that place, I was anointed with a Monday through Friday job where the lady loved me, would let me go play basketball. I had it.
So you wasn't locked up 23 and 1. You got to move around. You got to shake a little bit.
I was out all day working.
Got you.
And so it was anointing, man. It was giftings, you feel me? And so I had brand new underwear, socks, and clothes every day, all day. And she would give me extra for the weekends. And I'm telling you this because at the time, it was legal for them to give us washed but used undergarments. So to take a shower, you'd have to go pick through some washed but bunch of used underwear. Mm-hmm. And socks. And
from underwear. A facility that doesn't have restrooms inside. Oh no,
So there's skid marks on every underwear. so like these are like these were the conditions at the time. The first day I get there, there's this young white kid there, and he was walking up to everybody, shaking their hand and introducing himself. And when he came to shake my hand, I took a step back and I could see everyone, behind, peripheral. And I said, if I was you, I'd stop being so friendly, my man. And so he just kept going. So later that night, it was shower time. Literally, first day I was there, shower time. And we go take showers. And the friendly one walked in towards the end. And I already seen the murmurs and whatnot. I dried off, walked out, and he was gang raped that night.
This your first night.
First night.
And you're not even up north.
No. This is quarantine
intake,
bro. This is quarantine intake with 20 and under, dog.
So he didn't even get with the big boys yet.
Nothing yet. These are
Damn.
these are the kids. These were the kids, bro. Day one.
This is the kind of thing, I mean, I know that this was the 90s, but still, the prison systems, I have a lot of opinions that I won't share about them. But the opinion I will share is exactly that. Like, they call them correctional facilities and things. Like, how in the world is someone supposed to go through all of that abuse and neglect and then re-enter the world as a normal functioning human being? Like, how can you expect a person to do that?
You know, so I'm finishing my master's at U of M in criminology and criminal justice, with a concentration in public administration. And so last night I was reading. I was up at like 2 a.m. reading, and they believe the reason why the conditions of prison have fallen to the conditions that they're in is because criminologists, to begin with, since the 70s, have never embraced the concept of a good prison, that there's no such thing as a good prison. So it's kind of deep. So what they've been focused on is the mass incarceration, right? That so they haven't, so unfortunately until now have we been concerned with the environment that we're providing for a very vulnerable population. Right.
Can I ask, this is a little bit off topic, on topic. What is your opinion? How does the privatization of prisons play into that, if at all?
So right now, I'm literally a service provider, right? With my book, a service provider.
I got one too, you heard?
Me too.
So, hold up. So listeners, audience, y'all need to get y'all copy now. The link is below. Make sure that you click it after you finish watching this episode. Good read. Continue.
Yeah, just real quick for the podcast listeners, Mario Bueno, his book is Never Going Back, a trauma-informed guide for a successful reentry. So you can look that up, buy it. It is an amazing guide.
So
available on Amazon.
I appreciate that. The reason why I wrote it was because, you know, it's a workbook, reentry workbook, in which right now I'm a service provider for Michigan Public Health Institute, which is, their client is the state of Michigan, right, for juvenile reentry. And we're talking about the privatization of prisons. That was the question. Mm-hmm. And so far, since I've been home, you know, I'm a co-founder of Lucky. This is actually the logo. Leaders under correct knowledge, right?
Nice. That's a nonprofit, correct?
Right. It's a nonprofit. It's a bridge in which we connect the otherwise disconnected population, right? And so since I've been home, we've serviced the adult industry. Like I personally have never set foot in a juvenile facility as an offender, right? Mm. I've since 16 to 36, all with the big boys, right? As a service provider, I'm now getting a perspective and a firsthand look. With that being said, I can say that we are doing our community and our society a disservice at making it a capital enterprise, that of corrections, any kind of criminal justice solutions. If there's a profit to be made, then those who profit, just like any kind of corporate entity, any shareholder, the mission is to gain the best margin, right? And when we're talking about lives that have been traumatized, further traumatization, at the expense of society, just for a shareholder, I think is doing us a disservice. Mm. And so these youths that I'm servicing, it's disheartening because it's too much just for one person. And so what I'm learning is that, you know, you do what you can, and if you're faithful over the few, you'll be ruled over many. But just always focus not on the profit, but on the people, right? not the profit, the people. If you focus on the people, the profit will come anyway.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
So my opinion in a nutshell is it's a bad move to privatize prisons, education, or medical. That's just my opinion.
Thank you for that, Mario. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you in intake. You leave intake after.
So now because I'm in intake and I'm like a porter that's cleaning these offices and they loving me. I'm there for like 4 months. I'm like running the joint, right? And so they sent me to a place that they said was nice, which was hindsight being 2020 after being in 16 prisons. That was a nice joint, right?
Was it a max? Was it a medium?
Well, going in with 10 years or more, they automatically put you on level 4, which is a high security. The only way to get to a max security is if you're in level 4 and you do something to deserve to get there.
Okay.
So I got to a level 4. It was a nice place. It was in a farmland area.
No, what's the name of it? Because Gina's actually from Michigan.
It was Carson City Correctional Facility.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with that. Ionia has a lot of different prisons. That was a good place. That was actually a good prison to be at. I didn't know the difference at the time. Just like when you pointed out, Mario, at 16, you didn't have any other experiences except movies. Well, guess what? I didn't have any other experiences except like county jail, then Riverside. Then I went to Carson City Correctional Facility. I thought every prison was like this. I've been locked up 387 days in solitary. Then I go to quarantine 4 months, even though I had that job. It's still like there's nothing there. Then you get to a general population. You get to a control center, to a prison. They hand you a bedroll, and every place you've been to, they've chaperoned you wherever you walk. Now they hand you a bedroll and they say, your building's out that way. You just got to walk out that way. So you walk out to a yard and you see all these men walking around and now it's like, everyone want to be a beast until it's time to do what real beasts do. You feel me?
What was you feeling at that moment? You got your bedroll.
Yeah, definitely fear. It's that fight or flight. I was trained and conditioned to be able to utilize my fear, my adrenaline, the autonomic nervous system. I was trained to utilize that to fight. You feel me? But I felt fear. I was every time I get into with someone in there, I'd be like, look, man, you're starting to scare me, man. Don't scare me, bro. Like if you scare me, I can't stop. You feel me?
You're like the Hulk. You don't want to see me angry, kind of thing.
It's not even like I'm gonna tear you apart, but like when I get scared, like
you can't stop.
It's not good. Like for nobody involved. Like don't scare me. So I'm in level 4. I'm there for like 6 months. I get my GED. I'm only 17 years old. I get my GED.
You was always smart. That's mine because you was always smart. You always had a brain on you.
Yeah, but
I just want to bring back, all of us here have our GEDs. Phoenix and I always say that. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. We always bring that back.
That's crazy.
We always say that. We had another guest. His name was Buck. He's also successful, like the three of us. And he mentioned that. And we always like to shine a light, not to the glorify not going to high school.
No, I got you. Listen to me. I posted on my social media like a month ago. I said I got my GED from Carson Correctional Facility. I said, oh yeah. I said in April I graduated with a master's from U of M. It's just
go blue. Hold on, I want to say that too. I'm a Michigan fan. Gina from Michigan. Go blue. Be Ohio State. You heard?
Yeah, boy. I'm humble to say that, but at the end of the day, the clients that I got right now, for example, like it's not where you start, it's where you finish, and so continuing on with the prison thing, I learned quickly at Carson City Correctional Facility. I went from all this high intense lockup to being wide open, right? And so once again, I had told you that my dad said, I won't pay for your attorney, but I'll pay for your education. They had a program for Ohio University, a correspondence program for the incarcerated. I enrolled in pre-calculus and the English writing and rhetoric. And because they sell paper, like a pad of paper like this on the prisoner store, they denied my statistics graph paper. if you understood the roadblocks that my father went to trying to educate me while I was in prison, like literally he would go meet with his own representatives, his own senators.
So I'm curious, because you were talking about like the way that the prison systems are run and the way that people are treated when they're incarcerated. Do you think that has anything to do with the incentive to kind of keep people there?
Yes. So actually, contractually speaking, if you do a little bit digging, you'll find out that private prisons sign a contract with the state ensuring like 85 to 90% capacity, full capacity, like that, because you get paid by how much you house, right? So then you go into this, like literally, I'm doing this week assignment, politics and budget. Like your budget as a government determines your policies. Like if you really want to see like what your country values, look at their budget.
So I think this is interesting. So I got a question. So you're at one of the most prestigious schools that's not non-Ivy, Michigan.
Yeah, you know that's God.
Yeah, go blue, right? So you are in the criminology department. You studying criminology, and based on previous conversations between you and I, they're kind of grooming you to become like a professor.
Amen. Yes.
Within that department. Now, and congratulations, my brother. With that being said, how you experiencing it? So they are speaking logic, they're speaking theory, right? On one hand, but you experienced it. How do that conflict, or is it a conflict on what they're teaching our professionals and our leaders within that the discipline, and who you used to be is really experiencing?
It used to be a real challenge. And I say that because like, I know you already know, like when you're personally invested in something, right? Frustration only comes when you're invested in something, right? So if you don't have those checks and balances internally to check your attachments and your personal emotions in this, because I am this population that I serve, and most of the people at the table are not. I believe that the universe has not put me on a level in which I'm able to withstand those offenses because they're unconscious, and I can't hold people to a level in which, honestly, they're not mature enough to. Maturity just comes from the Greek word perfect, to perfect yourself, and I don't want anybody to perfect the perspective that I had. This shit ain't cool, man. Like what we're doing to children, let alone adults, like putting them in these prisons, it leaves a unconscious residual or traumatic effect on your psyche that I think even the best of us, it goes unchecked and untreated. I really don't want these people that I'm sitting at the table with to have my perspective. I'd rather have theirs. So with that being said, I think that it does. It goes back to it takes a village. So while I'm the mentor for these juvenile prisoners in which I go and pick up and take out, and I'm helping them before they come home and then at post reentry, I need a mentor that hasn't experienced those effects. And so it's
that balance.
Yes, the yin and the yang. When we came home, the group of us, the men and myself, we were a threat to our industry. We do have a competitive advantage, with all due respect. Not just being in prison, but being in prison and succeeding and coming home and now succeeding in this arena.
Exactly.
Like it doesn't suffice. 95% of people that go to prison come home. Just being in prison doesn't suffice for you to be some sort of model of replication here. And 87% in 9 years go back. So with that being said, guys like myself, like we're a real threat to this industry. And this is an industry, especially in Detroit. It's a racket. Let's keep it real. Children and returning citizens are a cash cow for many keen people who are in position to benefit from such budgets, some such budgetary policy.
So I want to get into that a little bit here. So kind of fast forwarding, not to skip over, but to fast forward through the various transfers that you made. Can you tell me like kind of what led you to be where you are today?
So fast forward, I was 16, now I'm 26, right? 10 years in prison.
Okay.
And I begin to close my cell door, put a towel up, and get on my knees.
Hold on, I'm sorry. So I just want to pick the script. So 10 years, you're 26 years old. This is number what prison that you're in at this time?
Probably number 10.
And you would know at this point that you still had several years ahead of you?
I still had like another 10. So ironically enough, though, it started back at the prison, Carson City Correctional, because I was there twice. So I was there from 16 to 18, got kicked out. 10 years later, I'm back at Carson City Correctional Facility.
So that means you went to worse prisons, and now you're coming back down.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. So now I'm back at Carson City. I'm 26 now. I know how to communicate with staff. They all knew me when I was 16. But they always wondered about me. I was bilingual, but they wondered about me because I was never abused or taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. I could always hold my own.
So nobody never came at you like they did that white dude the first day in prison. Nobody ever came at you like that.
I'm humbled and blessed to say no. You know, from a very early age, I was in a snake pit. And instead of becoming a snake, I had to become the pit. You feel me?
Exactly. All right, so let's get back to it. So you 26 years old, the door closed, the towel over the door.
Put the towel up, I'm getting on my knees, and I'm literally crying and telling God, you know, I love you, God, but I hate every man around me. I hate every man around me. I said, tell me how to love you. And I did that for like 2-3 years, man. In that constant, fervent seeking of oneself, right? Kind of like the Apollo of Delphi, right? Says, know thyself. Seeking of self, like you attract what you are. And so I went from literally like, you know, mastering the art of war and military methods and art of seduction and all this other stuff to reading other materials that was on a higher level. Instead of being fear-based, it was more love-based. And I started attracting people on that level. I'm at Mile Road in Detroit. You know, it's 2006 or 7, and I'm back on the back. We call it the back 40, the big yard, with this guy. I'm 26. This guy's 36. He's been locked up for 20 years. His name's Antonio Esprit Bay, a Mobile. I was raised Catholic. Like I consider myself an apostle of the risen one. It don't matter, though. Like a scarcity mindset cuts off all resources. Some of my greatest mentors worship Islam. It don't matter. Like Jesus traveled all throughout the Asiatic province during his right.
Alhamdulillah.
So we're sitting there with alhamdulillah. We're sitting there with no socks on and stuff back there, meditating, praying. I said, man, these guys, they be fruity back here, man. He's like, shut up, keep meditating. I was like, man, I don't want to do this, man. My point is like we back there and that's what I was attracting in my life. Mm-hmm. And he's like, walk in the grass, just feel it. I was like, man, you know how we look right now, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like I went from running poker tables and like, but I literally, the moment that I started blowing up the most is the moment I stopped caring what people thought about. You feel me? So
hold on, that's an interesting point. And I need the youth to hear this shit because what I'm hearing from you is in prison amongst you. Okay, you in the zoo. How can you have a chapter 6? You talked about emotional intelligence. How can you practice true emotional intelligence in the zoo?
Some of the greatest minds you ever meet are in prison. And so like you attract what you are, not what you want out of life. And with that being said, prison's like high school, bro. Like you got like the jocks, you got this, it's groups, it's cliques.
But with that peer pressure around you, equating it to high school, like there's that peer pressure around you, like going back to the zoo analogy, how does the tiger's change its stripes? Like, how do you go from being this person to deciding that, you know, I need to change who I am and attract something different?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question.
That's a great question.
That's a great question. I can tell you this, that, I had the proverbial stick, but I also had the proverbial carrot, in which, like, my mom and my dad would come visit me nonstop. I have to attribute the sanctity of my humanity, right, to them.
So you went through 16 different prisons. You was able to keep your true self because of the support in your family. So now, who's Mario today? Let the audience and other offenders know what real change look like.
I'm a co-founder of a nonprofit, right? Richard Speck and Cameron Coates, they're co-founders. In prison, I was kicked out of my ninth prison. I was in six, kicked out of 9. Mm-hmm. Kicked out of my 9th one. I'm 33 years old. I get to Jackson State Prison. It just so happens a good friend of mine who I hadn't seen in 10 years is running an organization that's taking the most influential men from a prison yard. Not for the good, obviously, right? If you influential on a prison yard, it ain't for the good. You feel me? So they pulling guys like that off the prison yard and training them in critical thinking, effective communication, leadership, servant leadership. And if you get through all that training, they will train you as a mediator and certified. But I told you this story, I might have, Phoenix, I don't know, but I get kicked out of my 9th prison. I'm sitting there. I run across my boy that night. He's in the same hallway. There's A through K housing units, 1,800 prisoners. I'm on his hallway. He's the chairman of this organization. And this week they're starting a 17 to 25-year-old violent offender transformational pilot program. He tells me about it. He goes, I can't believe you're here, man. We're about to start this program. You'd be perfect for it. He's like, man, because I had a lot of influence, and I was a youthful offender. These are all 17 to 25-year-old aggressive guys. He goes to the deputy warden the next day and tells him, look, I got the perfect guy. Perfect guy that will train him. He'll be the trainer of all these youth. He said, perfect. Who is he? He said, he's Mario Bueno. He goes, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. So I had 2 files and they had rubber bands wrapped around it, locked up so long. He says, no. His file's right here. Tell him don't even unpack his shit. That this prison ain't for him. That was a level 1. That was the least secure. I was used to level 2s and above. He said, Deputy Warden, Dep, he called him Dep. He said, Dep, I've never asked for anything in these 3 years I've ran your program. He said, give me a shot with Mario. And he's looking at him. He's like, you got it good here. He's like, yeah, I know, Deb. He's like, well, if he goes, you go. He's like, yes, sir, I accept that. He said, well, tell him he's got 1 foot on a banana peel and 1 foot out the door. Mm. Now, the important story of that is Rick never told me this. Mm. And now, mind you, this is a guy who's on his 3rd bid, doing a 15-year sentence that I helped when he first came in. Now, we were in a violent place. He could always handle his own, but I was very influential around all Latinos. He's half Latino, half German. Mm. And so I was like a role model for him at that time. And I've always tried to get in this program that he was the head of. It was in 7 different prisons. And so he never told me. Now, mind you, on this 3rd bid, he was convicted of impersonating a federal DEA agent and robbing high-level stash houses and with Kevlar. So we're talking about a guy who thinks, right? So sure enough, he never tells me this. And after about 4 or 5 months, I stopped. I came to a crossroads. And I was up there in front of a classroom of 17 to 25-year-old men and teaching them to think different. And you're talking to someone who in 2006 and 2007, when I was teaching young men how to resolve internal and invariably external conflict, it was put in my file, do not allow this prisoner to teach other prisoners. Remember, teach a slave anything but to read. And we can say slavery is abolished. However, the 13th Amendment begs to differ. That slavery is abolished except those brandished a felon, which can be lent out in loan and leased to for-profit companies. Hence, we rebuilt the South, right? So with that being said, the only way to control a 2,000-man prison yard is to have them divided, to conquer them. You got 80 prison guards on a 3-shift rotation. How you get control of 2,000 men? Divide and conquer, pacify them. Don't let them read. Don't have them educated. Don't have them united. So do not let him read. So now I get fast forward, and you got a progressive Black deputy warden who's been in the system for 30 years and keeps getting passed up to become warden. Why? Because he wants to empower us and treat us as he so desires us to become. You empower us, right? And so that's what he did. And so, you know, you fast forward a couple of years after this, I was pulled in this program, and I was called off the prison yard, and in front of Rick and Cam, the co-founders of Luck Inc., which we service Reentry for the Detroit area. I was asked, do I waive my 30-day notice because the parole board wants to see me in 13 days because they gave me all my good time back.
This your first parole board?
First parole board.
What year is this?
2013. I was released in 2014.
Oh shit! So you made it on your first
First go.
Board. Wow.
First go.
And that is that common in Michigan for people convicted of murder?
Not only is it not common, Phoenix, I didn't even have a support letter. Like, in order to prepare for a parole hearing, it takes 6 months. I was called off the prison yard, said, do I waive my 30-day notice? They want to see me in 13 days. Everybody in the prison, like, I would be on a visit and staff will come out and introduce themselves to my people visiting me. And we're like, hey, yeah, we're so-and-so. We just want to let you know we really love Mario here. We wish we could just keep him forever.
That's because of the impact you was making on that prison during that time with the warden didn't even want you in the program or in that prison.
At first he didn't want me. Right? And then he tells everyone, like, he would have Governor Snyder shut the whole prison down to meet the 30 peacemakers. So boom, I get pulled in this program. There's like 11 housing units, 12 housing units. After 6 months, the deputy warden calls us out and says, I'm not getting the numbers I want. I said, I know you're not, Dep. He said, well, why not? I said, well, because you give them to us for 5 hours a week in a school building to teach them pro-social rules of engagement. I said, but the problem is there's 168 hours in a week. So for 163 hours, we put them back in an environment that don't respect that theory, right? That application doesn't match up with the theory. He said, so what do you need? I said, we need our own housing unit. I said, no disrespect. That was
you. You came up with that, or the other co-founders?
No, that was me. But you know, my co-founder Rick, that we was inside this prison. We co-founded outside the prison.
Oh, okay.
Because there was nothing out here.
Yeah.
But inside, we were part of an organization that we took to another level. Mm-hmm. And I told Rick earlier, I said, we need our own. So he said, so what do you need? I said, we need our own housing unit where our students live with the teachers. Mm-hmm. And I said, no disrespect, but the expectations are above and beyond the Michigan Department of Corrections there. And he's looking at me. He said, all right, you got it. I said, really? So we transformed a housing unit. That was it. Literally, they would give us the worst of the worst. They would become our students. But me and Rick, we were in a cube of 8 men. It was only supposed to be meant for 4. But like 6 of them will be 17-year-olds that are bad as hell. And they would put them with us. It was an experience like no other. And so I did it for I didn't know this whole time, like the source was training me to be able to fulfill my covenant. Like, it's one thing to sit there and promise to do something, but it's another thing to be able to train and condition and prep to be able to do it. You feel me?
Yeah.
So literally, I grinded my way to my purpose, not knowing that was going to push me out of prison and put me on a platform of what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. And it all starts with not cutting off your resources, not prejudging. I know this, that some of my greatest mentors were Islamic, who was a black man, and some was white men. And I know this, if I would have waited for a Cuban, Ecuadorian man to mentor me, guess what? I would have been sitting there in the mirror talking to myself, being crazy as a boo-boo. The worst thing you can do in your life is try to conceive of what your reality should look like and get transfixed on that reality.
That reminds me of the phrase that people say, which is when we make plans, God laughs.
That's it. No, did you want to hear God laugh? Go ahead and tell him your plan.
Tell them your plans. Exactly. Yes, exactly. So speaking of plans, what are yours going forward? What is next for Mario?
Good question. You know, I'm really focused on finishing my master's in criminology and criminal justice. And then I'm going to go for my educational leadership doctorate. You know, I became the worst 16-year-old juvenile offender that I could become. And the onus is upon me to become the best version of myself, right? And I firmly believe, as I promised in solitary after I read the autobiography of Nelson Mandela and read of a man that was bettering himself to free his people. And I was sitting in the solitary, angry at the world. Woe is me, right? Looking out the window instead of in the mirror. And I promised myself, I said, education, which is to draw out, right? I'm going to draw out the best version of myself the rest of my life to be a light into the darkness. All I can say is my plan is each and every day to try to better myself so I can better the world around me, you know?
I think that's an amazing lesson to take from this. I think that's something that we should definitely all focus on still going forward. You know, none of us know when the pandemic's going to end. So I think taking this time to self-reflect and figure out when all of us do re-enter the world, what is that light that we're going to be bringing into the world? So Mario, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you and hearing your story and hearing the transformation that you've gone through and the work that you are now doing to help others to re-enter into society and to just make better choices. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate you, Gina. Phoenix. Take care. I appreciate it.
I don't have any more, but man, this was powerful, bro. Thank you.
That's how you know it's a good one, is when we run out before the episode is quite over. So Phoenix, before we go, we have something special that we do every episode.
Exactly. So Mario, this is my favorite part of the show. It's called the Thing of the Week. So during the Thing of the Week, Gina and I provide the audience with something that they could hold on to, where it be a book, a quote, something inspirational that they could carry into the next time they see and hear us. So without further ado, my thing of the week is this. Being that it's Thanksgiving, my thing of the week is simple. Be thankful. Remember, that terrible job is a dream to a person that is unemployed.
Absolutely.
That apartment you live in is a dream to a person that is homeless. When you smile, that laughter is also a dream to a person that is depressed. Your health is a dream to those who are ill, and your current lifestyle, no matter how up you may think you are, you have to appreciate it and remember that that's a dream to someone else. So basically, my thing of the week is this. Don't let the hard times make you forget the blessings that you have. Again, be thankful. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Role model mindset, Coach Phoenix. Coach Gina?
Phoenix, I always love your thing of the week. And especially it's timely being Thanksgiving for us to just take a minute to reflect in our busy lives about what things we can be thankful for, because no matter the condition, we always have something. So my thing of the week is a little bit more lighthearted to bring everybody up to the next week, which is an anonymous quote. Don't let the turkeys get you down. Those people who are out there trying to deter you from doing the right thing or following your dreams or whatever it is, they're just gobbling. It's the same as a turkey. They're just gobbling. Don't let them get you down. Keep going forward. Keep chasing your dreams. Keep doing the things you know are right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I took from that is don't be a turkey, eat a turkey. You heard?
True.
So with that, Mario, again, man, thank you, my brother. This story has been powerful. It was awesome to hear a perspective from a juvenile lifer who is now getting his master's as a graduate assistant. Man, hats off to you. Audience, happy Thanksgiving again. I love you. We love you. Coach Gina, Coach Phoenix, Toast with the Coaches. Join us next week. Subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and we out. Cheers.
Cheers.